Hello my lemons and limes! Today we are making these beautiful pink split resin trinket trays. Let's get started! I've already got my molds picked out and they are on my pressure pot inserts for easy transfer. I'm using the Let's Resin Fast Cure resin and I'm mixing up about 100 milliliters of it, which turns out to be a little less than I wanted, but you'll see why later. Now just mix it up thoroughly or until your arm feels like it'll fall off. For me, that's about 3 to 5 minutes. With that mixture, I'm going to portion out about 1/3 of it into another cup for my clear resin. In the other 2/3 cup, I'm adding 5 scoops of Magic Resin's Mica powder in the color Soft Pink. Now mix that in until it's an even and uniform color throughout. After that, I'm throwing my cups into my Resiners AirLess Pro Resin Bubble Remover machine, oof, that's a mouthful, for about 10 minutes. Once the mixture has been debubbled, there's still a few bubbles on the surface, but I'm not too worried because any excess bubbles will come out in my pressure pot. With that, I start pouring out my pink resin into about 2/3 of the mold. And I put the clear resin onto the other side. Usually I mix about 50 milliliters for each mold in this step, but since I only mixed 100 milliliters instead of 150, which I still don't know why I did that, I now have to push the resin to the edges using my stir stick. In my experience, lots of bubbles form in the 90-degree crease of the lip of the tray mold, so I take my mixing stick or even a micro brush and push and drag along those edges to hopefully pop most of the bubbles. I do a once over with my heat gun as well for any residual bubbles. Taking some gold foil flakes, I'll make a transition between the pink and clear resin by putting some on my mixing stick and massaging it into the meeting of the two resins. Make sure to also push some foils into the lip of the molds to make sure the transition goes all the way around. I also use these flakes to create more space in the clear section if needed. For example, in the bottom left tray, you'll see me pushing the flakes back to make enough room for my future flowers. Speaking of flowers, I'm using 3 white daisies for each tray. And I also pulled out some different options for leaves, but I only ended up using the small ones. When laying flowers into resin, remember that the finished product will be on the other side, so flip your flowers as you place them. I've forgotten to do that a few times, and it really sucks to spend all this time working just to unmold it and the flowers are on the wrong way. Lastly, I'm adding this beautiful pink glitter to any open spots between the flowers. With one final pass of the heat gun, I put these puppies into the pressure pot for 4 to 6 hours at 40 psi before pouring the last coat of resin. Once my molds are hard enough to cast over, I mix up the rest of the resin I need. Here I have about 200 to 250 milliliters, and I mix until fully combined. I will portion 1/3 out into a separate cup for my clear resin, and I'll mix the same 5 scoops of Magic Resin soft pink mica powder into the other 2/3 mixture. I portion half this mixture off into another cup just so I can put it into my debubbler and it won't overflow. If you don't have a debubbler, then feel free to skip this step. And after 10 minutes, it's ready to pour. I decided at this point to add more of the pink glitter into the clear resin, so I carefully mix that in to avoid as many bubbles as possible. Now just repeat the same steps as the first pour, minus adding in any flowers or gold foils. And I didn't show it here, but I had to mix up more resin off to the side to fill the entire mold. So all in all, I used about 400 milliliters of resin from start to finish. I guess not mixing up enough resin has become sort of a theme for this video. Oops. Now using a long nose lighter, I pop any of the big bubbles on the surface. And I also use my heat gun for extra debubbling. As you can probably tell by now, bubbles are the devils of resin, and you must do anything you can to destroy them. Now they go back in my pressure pot for another 8 to 12 hours to fully cure. They are fully cured now, so it's time to demold them and do some finishing touches. Once they are out of the molds, they will probably have some jagged and sharp edges. I sand my trays by using a Dremel by the brand Kuliao, and I only use 2 of the finishing bits, a sander and polishing bit. I also use a polishing compound called Plast X, a brush to clean any excess debris, and a cloth for buffing. I also have these silicone door stoppers for the bottom of the tray. To sand the pieces, I go over the edges with the sanding bit to roughly trim down any protruding edges and overall smooth the bottom lip. I then do the same process, but with the polishing bit. I give it a once over with the brush to take off any excess dust, and I put a small amount of the polishing compound on the bottom and buff it in with a towel. I buff the entire piece with this until it's as shiny as can be. Lastly, I put the silicone feet at 4 different spots on the bottom. And that's it! That's how you make these beautiful resin trinket trays. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!